Live from the Carl Perkins Civic Center, this is the City of Jackson Mayoral Candidates Forum, brought to you by the Jackson Chamber, the Leadership Jackson Alumni Association, and E+ Broadband Jackson Energy Authority. Tonight, candidates for mayor discuss important issues for the City of Jackson. Now, your moderator, Kelly McAllister.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us for the 2019 Jackson Mayoral Forum. It is my pleasure to serve as your moderator. Before we introduce our candidates and tackle the top issues facing our city, please welcome Kyle Spurgeon, President and CEO of the Jackson Chamber.
Thank you, Kelly. On behalf of the 1,100 members, the Board of Directors, and the Executive Committee of the Jackson Chamber, thank all of you for being here tonight. Kelly and I were just talking. Appreciate all of you being here, but let's make sure that all of you vote about 6 to 7 weeks from now in this election. You know, this is a great community. Jackson is a great place, and we have a very important 4 years in front of us. It's very important who leads this community the next 4 years. Tonight's forum is designed to help you better make that decision on who would be the best candidate to lead Jackson. Again, thank you for being here and appreciate everything that you do to make Jackson a better place.
On behalf of the Leadership Jackson Alumni Association, we are honored to partner with the Chamber's Governmental Affairs Committee to bring you this forum tonight. I'll echo Kyle's sentiments. With 5 candidates running for mayor and several others running for open city council positions as well, this is a pivotal time in our city, and so we need you to come out to vote, number one. But number two, we hope this forum tonight brings you the best avenue that it can to help you make the most informed decision you can about the next mayor of Jackson. Our city's doing great things. It's headed in the right direction. It's our expectation that the next mayor will continue those efforts, and we just appreciate you all being here tonight.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Kyle. Tonight, I would like to begin by reviewing the rules for the forum. All candidates have agreed to abide by these rules. There will be a 2-minute opening statement and a 2-minute closing statement by each candidate. Candidates will answer every question. The order of the candidates on stage and the order in which candidates answer questions was predetermined by random drawing. Candidates will be allowed 45 seconds to respond to questions. Candidates are not allowed to reference or otherwise address one another. In the event that one candidate is referenced by another, the referenced candidate will be granted an additional 30 seconds to speak. The audience should refrain from applauding, cheering, or in any other way participating in tonight's forum, except for right now, as we welcome our candidates. Dr. Jerry Woods, Mr. Jimmy Eldridge, Mr. Mark Johnstone, and Mr. Scott Conger. Welcome, gentlemen.
Hello, Kelly.
Our candidates tonight will each give a 2-minute opening statement. As mentioned before, the order was predetermined through a random drawing conducted with representatives from each candidate. Dr. Vicky Foote could not be here tonight. However, she will deliver an opening and closing statement via video. The first candidate we will hear from tonight, Mr. Eldridge.
Thank you, Kelly, and it is an honor and privilege to be here tonight, and I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce and especially the Government Affairs Committee and the Leadership Jackson for putting this Mayoral Forum together. It is a privilege to be here and share the ideas that for the vision of Jackson as we move forward. And and I want to also thank the audience for being here, and thank you for your support of this forum tonight. And I want to especially thank my wife, Carolyn, and my family, my immediate family, and got a lot of family out here, so my time will run out, but thank you, we love you, and thank y'all for your support in this candidacy. I've had the honor to, first of all, I grew up in Jackson. I was born in Jackson, Tennessee, and graduated from the University of Memphis at Lamouth campus today with a degree in chemistry and a BS degree in biology, and had the honor to go to the University of Memphis and attend graduate school in microbiology. I'm really excited about this campaign, and I'm running because I have the desire and the leadership and experience to lead Jackson to the next stage of life for our community here. I've had the honor to serve on our county commission here. I've had the honor to serve 16 years in the Tennessee General Assembly. And while in the General Assembly, I've had the honor to serve even as a freshman in leadership. And in the last 10 years, I've had the honor to serve as chairman of a major committee as a senior member. And also, I've had the honor to serve on Finance, Ways and Means, and various other committees. But I'm excited about this mayor's race, and if I have the honor and the privilege to be your mayor, I will give it all, my best, and I'll work hard as I can to make Jackson very proud to live, raise your family, raise your grandchildren here, and retire here. And if I have that privilege, I'll work hard each and every day to move Jackson forward. And with that, thank you very much.
Thank you. Now let's hear from Mr. Foote, or Dr. Foote.
Good evening. I'm Vicky Foote. I regret that I cannot be with all of you tonight. Here's why. As some of you know, my husband Hicks passed away last year. If you've lost a spouse to a lengthy illness, you understand that when the days are cut short, sometimes promises are made. Well, I made him a promise that I would fulfill a promise that he had made to our grandchildren, to take them to a place every child dreams of going. So tonight, I am in the magic kingdom of Disney World with 3 excited children, because when Vicky Foote makes a promise, she keeps it. One of tonight's topics is public education. I spent a long career in that field, so I do know a little something about it. I know our schools are in trouble. I know by law it is the responsibility of the county to provide for education. But these are all our children. When they are not achieving to their potential, all of us must own the problem. The city must take a larger role in public schools, for it is the city that has the most to lose if schools fail. Economic development is impossible without strong schools to provide a competent workforce. Our school leaders have identified reasons students perform poorly: poor readiness skills for kindergarten, a lack of self-confidence, a need for positive role models, and drug use in older students, just to name a few. There are ways the city can help address these problems, and the city must. Voters have the opportunity this year to elect a mayor who has the experience to understand the dynamics of public education and the experience in city government to discern what services the schools need that the city can provide. This is a critical time for our schools and our city, but my experiences have prepared me for just such a time as this. Thank you.
Thank you. Now let's hear from Mr. Conger.
Thank you, Kelly, and I want to thank the Jackson Chamber and the Leadership Jackson Alumni Association for putting this on. I had the privilege of being a 2011 Leadership Jackson graduate, so I know the importance of the program. This mayor's race is about the future. And so you look back 6 generations ago, the Conger family settled in Jackson, Tennessee. And since then, we've been a part of things that make Jackson great, creating a Jackson for tomorrow and for today. And so now I look around, and my wife, Nikki, and I have 2 small children. And so we want to be a part of a Jackson that's building for the future, that when they graduate high school, that when they graduate college, they can see themselves planting roots here, starting their families here. We want to ensure that the 7th generation of Congers are making their home right here in Jackson, Tennessee. So if you elect me as mayor, I can tell you that every single day and every single decision that I make will be with a clear understanding of the impact it will have 20 years down the road. Because we can make a better Jackson for today, we continue for the future, and do so as well. I had the privilege of serving Jackson City Council for 6.5 years, so I have a clear, integral understanding of how city government works, how the processes work, the roles of city council members, and the roles of the mayor. And as your next mayor, I can promise you that I can carry that experience forward. I can look to the future and start building a Jackson to make Jackson better, not only today, but for 20 years from now when my kids and our kids grow up. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Woods.
Good evening. I'm Jerry Woods, and I want to be your next mayor, the mayor of Jackson, Tennessee. I'm running for mayor to make a good city even better. I bring to you the servant leadership, the vision and strategies strategies, the moral compass to make Jackson what it truly can become. With all of my leadership, as I look among you and my servant leadership, I want to bring a moral compass to Jackson, Tennessee, that in the words of Hubert Humphrey, the moral compass of a city can be measured by the way it treats its citizens at the dawn, twilight, and shadows of their life. The dawn is our young people, the twilight is our elderly, and the shadows are those that are needy, those that are sick, and those that are disabled. It is important that we do this in three things. We want better schools, better support for our public schools, better economy, and better neighborhoods. Let me ask you to join me to make Jackson an even greater city. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a wonderful opportunity this day, this year, and this time. Let me ask you, as fellow Jacksonians, for us to move the city of Jackson forward together. Thank you so much for your attendance tonight.
Mr. Johnstone.
Thank you, Jackson Chamber, Leadership Jackson Alumni Association, and all those that put this event on this evening. If we could create a community that lets people thrive, prosper, and grow, along with safe streets, better schools, improved infrastructure, along with economic prosperity and a better quality of life for decades to come, would you want to be a part of that vision? We have problems with our school system and workforce development. We have problems with crumbling infrastructure. We have problems with safety and its perception in our neighborhoods, which has led to divisiveness, apathy, and skepticism. We're at a tipping point in our community that's going to impact us for decades. And I believe it's just plain wrong that our city does not prosper and grow and continues on with business as usual. My name is Mark Johnstone, and I'm running to be your next mayor in the city of Jackson. For 23 years, I've been a businessman in this community. I was former chairman of the Madison County Commission. I'm a Christian. I'm husband to Valerie for 27 years, sitting right there. A father to 3 children who all graduated from Madison Academic High School, and they're all doing great, by the way. My business experience and life skills has specifically prepared me for this time and place in our city. We have a $72 million budget, and our city deserves a businessman as a CEO to show the vision and help guide that for the future. I appreciate the opportunity to share that with you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. Let's get to our questions. Our next mayor will have the opportunity to move Jackson into a new decade, but progress comes with a price. In the past few years, the city's spending and income have not balanced, with our expenses requiring either loans, dipping into our reserve funds, or reallocating tax dollars. As leader of Jackson, what is your plan to balance the budget without stifling success? Mr. Conger.
It's a great question. I think one of the first things we need to do is change the way that we have our budgeting process. Right now, our budgeting process is about a 5 to 6 month process. We can move to an outcome-based budgeting system that looks at how we're spending our money, what the priorities are, where our priorities and our spending are, realign those, and bring people from the outside of the government, not just those department heads that are worried about protecting the budget they had last year, but people that actually take a look at the budget from outside eyes, and really see where we're spending our dollars and how we can better do that and better allocate those funds. Utilizing technology as we move forward can downsize the overall size of government, be more efficient and more effective in how we operate.
Thank you. Dr. Woods.
Addressing the city's budget, first, I want to look at the trend data. It's, you didn't get where you are overnight, and you won't get out of where you are overnight. I would look at trend data. Additionally, I would look at additional ways to bring in revenue to the city. There are some creative ways. And lastly, I think that I want the city's budget to do like an economist does in their home budget. You don't spend money that you don't have. You don't project money that you don't have. And certainly we will tighten the purse strings to see that we fall in line with our city's budget.
Mr. Johnstone.
Just like any small business, we have to have responsible government. And in doing that, the first thing we've got to do is establish a benchmark of where we are. We've got to look at the budget and look at what it's being spent on at this point in time, just like in any business situation. There's going to be a lot of changes with people retiring, with shifts and moves. It's going to be very fluid when the new administration comes in. So you're going to have to assess, and you're going to have to prioritize, and you're going to have to execute that. And you're going to have to operate in the black. We cannot afford to continue operating in the red.
Mr. Eldridge.
Thank you. I've been a small business owner for 40 years, and we always balanced our budget within our business to be successful. When I first went to Nashville, we had roughly a $32 billion budget, and it was kind of in a mess. We balanced that budget not on the backs of the taxpayers. We made the necessary cuts. We're known as one of the most fiscally responsible states in the country, and we have the lowest per capita debt in the nation today. And that's the way I want to bring that experience home to the city of Jackson and balance that budget, not on the backs of the taxpayers, unturn every stone, unturn every rock, unturn every leaf, and look at every line item of that budget and make sure we're spending our taxpayers' money prudently and living within our means.
Next question. There continues to be discussions regarding the need for a new multi-purpose venue or conference center in Jackson. What are your ideas that will better position Jackson to compete against peer communities for tourism dollars? Dr. Woods.
Great question. My idea is that we would continue to highlight the great things about Jackson. I think the Chamber has done a great job. I think we want to continue we have the Visit Jackson. I want to highlight the things that are going to Jackson. I think it's also important that we get on the cutting edge and go out and possibly recruit conventions that can come here. I believe that national conventions, regional conventions would come to Jackson if they knew even more about the amenities. So I feel that if we could do that, plus really I want us to be able to, I think we're looking at trying to attach a hotel to that convention center also, and I think that would be an added plus to that situation.
Mr. Johnstone.
At this point in time, we've got to look at what we have. We have assets in front of us that we can use without spending more money on a convention center at this point in time. I think we look at the venues that we have. We're doing good with a lot of things in our tourism situation. We could do better. I think we need to partner more with folks in other communities. They're coming here, staying in our hotels, but they're using resources in other counties, so they're contributing. We need to partner better with those. But aside from the things that we're doing that you automatically think of, we need to be thinking about the arts. The arts is part of tourism, and we cannot leave them behind. I remember years ago dancing on this very stage with my daughter in the Nutcracker. The Nutcracker, the Jackson Symphony, they bring tourism dollars as well.
Mr. Eldridge.
Thank you. Tourism is the #1 industry in the state of Tennessee. It brings in well over billions of dollars into the great state of Tennessee. And I think in Jackson, we've done a lot of good things right, but there's a lot of things that we can do to move Jackson forward. And I'm very open about a convention, about a conference center. You know, some people call it a convention center or a conference center, depends on the size and number of seats. I know the Chamber had a study and spent about $100,000 on that study looking at this issue. We need to pull that up out of the dust off and see where we're going with that. And I'm willing to go look at other areas like Tupelo, Mississippi. They did it, and we want to look at how they did it and why they're successful. And I believe if you build it properly, they'll come. Thank you.
Mr. Conger.
Yes, so Tupelo is a great example. Tupelo was originally designed for Jackson, and Tupelo took the design and made that happen. We have a study already done that the city did last year. We need to look at that and see where the best place for that is. I think a convention center is much needed. We miss out on way too many opportunities in Jackson for those small to mid-sized conventions. tourism is key. Tourism is the only thing that the city invests in with a 19-to-1 return on investment. So we need to make sure that we're returning our investment and investing in tourism. And we look at Memphis, Nashville. Right now, Jackson is considered a stop along the way. If we invest in tourism the way that I know that we can, we will be a destination point, not just a stopping point.
There are areas in our city that have seen the decline or absence of retail and commercial growth. What are your plans to spur development or revitalization in these areas of our community? Mr. Johnstone.
Community development and economic growth is essential to our community. And in my experience as a real estate appraiser, I've been involved with multiple projects all over this city. And we have to take a look at the community development plan and where it's going. And it can't be isolated to certain parts of the city. It has to bring everybody along. So that if we're all moving together and all coming along, then it's a win-win-win. And so we have to take a look at those things. And we have to look at making the city, for the future, a more pedestrian-friendly city. Because that's what the next generation is looking for. They're looking for convenient things and pedestrian-friendly, along with keeping the basic infrastructure intact.
Mr. Eldridge.
Well, first of all, economic development is a key to the growth and development of our community here. It's very, very important. Look what's happening in other cities like Nashville, Tennessee. Things are going well there. We need more of that brought here to our community here. And I'll be willing, as the next mayor, if I have that honor to be the next mayor of Jackson, Tennessee, to work with the Chamber of Commerce, work with developers and leaders, and work with people from across the state on ideas of moving Jackson forward and having economic growth development, because it's very vital and very key to our community.
Mr. Conger.
600 vacant lots are in the city of Jackson that the city of Jackson maintains. That's all expenditure, no revenue. If we look at revitalization in communities, we look at those lots, how we can turn those over to neighborhood associations, to small businesses, to just the neighborhoods as well. Studies show that every vacant lot, once turned into a green space community park, increases the property values by 20% on those contiguous property values. And so we need to look at doing that across the city, investing in every part of the city, not just one part, not just one census tract, but making sure that we're going through and revitalizing old buildings, where buildings need to be torn down, tear them down, and make sure that we're providing affordable housing as well throughout our city.
Dr. Woods.
We should continue our efforts to eliminate blight in some of the areas that would make a difference. Also, I want us to continue to, I want to continue to look at the qualified opportunity zones. Those are areas that investors can invest in at a minimal cost, and the government will refund them on that. I think that makes a difference. In addition to the lots, as I've made tours through the cities and through the area, I see that there are vacant lots. There are homes that I think that could be sold at a reasonable price, and those homes could be refurbished and individuals could live there. So I really feel that that's what I would do in that area.
As part of our forum tonight, we've added a few questions to help us get to know our candidates as individuals. These are questions designed to be answered in a single word or a single phrase. Our first rapid fire question: what is your all-time favorite song? Mr. Eldridge.
Louie Louie.
Mr. Conger.
I sing this to my daughter to go to sleep. I'm kind of embarrassed to say it, but Folsom Prison Blues.
Dr. Woods.
Living for the Love of You, the Isley Brothers.
Mr. Johnstone.
Thunderstruck, AC/DC.
All right, now back to the issues. Our next question. Jackson's location on Interstate 40 is one of the major reasons we have been so successful in recruiting new industry and facilitating expansions of existing industry. The economic development game has changed. Quality of life is one of the key location decision drivers. What are your plans to improve Jackson's quality of life? Mr. Conger.
Yes, the quality of life is it. If someone's looking to relocate, they're looking at quality of life, things to do, pedestrian friendly before they look for the job. And so quality of life is has a huge impact on how we develop our city and how we move our city forward. We have to look at being pedestrian friendly. With our 10-year capital plan that I've laid out, we're going to look at pedestrian lanes, bike lanes, sidewalks, contiguous sidewalks. You go in some neighborhoods now, you have sidewalks that are very scattered throughout, making sure that we have empowering small businesses to do those tourism things. And it goes back to tourism and quality of life to make sure that we're making Jackson a destination point and not just a stopping point along the road.
Dr. Woods.
I would address the area, the livability areas for the city. Again, of course, the sidewalks, but more importantly, I think the quality of life, as I said at the beginning, the quality of life has to be pervasive. It has to be across all areas of our city. While the interstate is where the main thoroughfare, the quality of life has to be told the story of what all Jacksonians should have, what they deserve, and what they are privy to. So that's exactly what I would do. Secondly, I think we still should continue to tell that quality of life story for everyone, that all Jacksonians can be privy to those advantages.
Mr. Johnstone.
When I look at the total economy and what I see in the city, it's a pyramid. The thing we're talking about now is kind of in the middle of that pyramid. It's healthy lifestyles, it's technology, it's quality of life, it's convenient things that make your life better. And those are things that the next generation is looking for, is they're looking for places to live. Because we cannot forget that people have a choice of where they want to live. They can choose anywhere in the world. And so we've got to not take that for granted, because we want them to choose to live here. And when they do that, they're looking for these issues: healthy lifestyles, technology, convenient things, easy flow of traffic, pedestrian-friendly cities.
Mr. Eldridge.
You know, we're real fortunate to have I-40 running right through the middle of Jackson, Tennessee. And when you drive through Jackson, you see the baseball field out there, a AA baseball field. And I have people that travel this area say all the time, Jackson's got a lot of things going for them. You know, we're real blessed to have 4 colleges here. We're fortunate to have a lot of the activities that we have in our community, but we can further grow our quality of life here by bringing in economic development. And one thing I want to do is work with Commissioner Bob Rolfe, who's the commissioner who got reappointed by this new governor to be the Commissioner of Economic Development, and work with him and bringing new economic ideas to our community and getting that money from Nashville, Tennessee. I know where it is, I know where to hide it, and I'm going to go get it.
Our next question. Our region's future is directly linked to the success of the Jackson-Madison County school system. What do you feel the city's role is, or should be, as it pertains to the school system moving forward? Dr. Woods.
The city has an integral role in education. I can't say that we use the term from time to time that the city is not in school business. It's impossible for us to have young people before us to have education and say we're not in the school business. As mayor, one of the things I would like to do is to appoint a public school liaison. This individual will work with the superintendent, with the school board, and with pretty much the county commission to be a sounding board, to be a direct link from the city of Jackson to the public schools. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are in school business because the future and the future of our children, the future of Jackson depends upon it.
Mr. Johnstone.
Typically, the county commission has been known to be the funding body of the school system. But at the end of the day, we're all in the school business because the future of our community and the growth of our community depends on the success of our school system. And from the city's standpoint, how I see the city's perspective of it is, number one, we've got to look at our past commitments and not be pulling out on prior commitments like we did last year. We've got to stay in the game instead of pulling money out like they've recently done. But also, we have to become a strategic partner with the school board and the county commission in moving us forward. It's going to take us all as a collective effort, and if we work together, we can move this system forward.
Mr. Eldridge.
You know, education is key to everything we do in our community and our country. Our young people are our future. We have to have a good education system out there, and we should invest in that. I think the city government ought to have a seat at the table, have a voice at the table, work with our community leaders in making Jackson one of the best school systems in the country. When you look back at my voting record in Nashville, Tennessee, I've been a strong supporter of education, especially public education in our community right here.
Mr. Conger.
So I think education is vitally important. And you look at the first time this year since consolidation happened, the city was able to come to the table and partner through a public-private partnership with the county, the school system, and the city. That couldn't have been done pre-2017. Couldn't have happened. And so you look at holding people accountable as well. School funding, we can talk about that. 68% reduction in school funding from property tax allocation in the county since 1998. That's unacceptable. We have to fund our schools at a high level. We also have to be able to invest in them, come to the table with the school system and follow our leadership, the superintendent, and plug in where it makes sense and be a part of that and not try to do the superintendent's job for him or her.
Our nation is experiencing record low unemployment rates, and Jackson is no different. Our businesses are expanding and growing. This growth within an already tight labor market increases the challenge of finding qualified employees. As mayor, how will you address this opportunity? Mr. Johnstone.
Well, right now, Madison County is at 3.7% unemployment. The state's 3.7%, which is slightly under the U.S. at 4.4%. And so that tells me we have people employed. We are basically at full employment at this point. The problem is the industries of the future that are coming to Jackson and asking and looking at us are looking for a qualified workforce. And this workforce is becoming more and more technical. And not everybody's designed for the college path. We need to be looking at partnering up with TCAT and the school system and others to get this workforce where it needs to be. And by the way, it starts at pre-K reading and being able to read by the time you're in third grade, if you want to have one in the future.
Mr. Eldridge.
I've had the honor to serve on the Tennessee Labor and Workforce Development Board, and we're very blessed and very fortunate that unemployment in Tennessee is at an all-record low, and particularly here in Madison County. But we need to expand our vocational education because not everybody's on a career path to go to college. We need an educated workforce that can work in the plants and have the vocational skills to move Jackson forward, to attract the industries here, to bring the jobs here that we need. And I'm excited about just here in the West Tennessee area, the mega site, what an impact it's going to make on our community. And I'd like to see more vocational education at our schools to educate people. And it goes back to the early days of pre-K, preparing our young people to go into these vocations and support our community.
Mr. Conger.
We have a fantastic superintendent, a fantastic school system that started the LOOP program, the launch program this year, that's looking at how to plug those students into career paths that they choose. It might not necessarily be the college path. I think it comes along the lines for the city to be able to invest in those quality of life issues. We have a fantastic fiber network that we have right here in Jackson. I have a cousin who works for Google in Boulder, Colorado. Every time he comes here, he talks about our fiber network, how fast the residential service is. We have to start capitalizing on those things that we have to enhance the quality of life, to bring those new tech jobs, to encourage entrepreneurs, to those that may not be on that college path can have an opportunity to start their careers, to start their businesses, or to start a different career path.
Dr. Woods.
Would like to continue to work with the partnership with the community colleges where they already have the business partners. In addition, I feel that we want to continue with the vocational education piece. College is not for everyone, but knowledge is. And that is the challenge we want to do. While it's not a four-year college, knowledge is needed. I want to continue that partnership. Also want to invest and look into even more green jobs that can come for our students. Increase the partnership with our community colleges, increase the partnership with our technology center in order that Jackson can move forward in the economic area.
All right, how about another rapid fire question? You ready? What is one item on your bucket list? Mr. Eldridge.
Grow Jackson.
Mr. Conger.
Tour Italy.
Dr. Woods.
Take my wife on that another cruise I've been promising her to do.
Mr. Johnstone.
Mount Kilimanjaro.
Back to our questions. For years, metro government has been discussed in this community. What are your thoughts on the metro form of government? Mr. Conger.
I think metro form of government is the way to go for the future. I think we have an opportunity as a metro government to consolidate some resources, to be more cost effective, to reduce the overall workforce, and be more efficient in how we provide services to the taxpayers and to the citizens, which that is the ultimate goal. I think it's a long, daunting process, but I think if it's something that we can accomplish, I think it's worth trying.
Dr. Woods.
I'm in favor. I look forward, or I'm in favor of metro government. Also, it is a process that we must go through. And the reason I give that is that when we combined our Jackson City schools and our Madison County schools, there was a process, even though it was not metro government, it was a process through where one entity and another entity had to come together, sit down at the table, look at the leveling up, and come out with a product that was beneficial to all the citizens of Jackson.
Mr. Johnstone.
My business experience lets me go to a lot of different communities. Some of those are metro government communities, and so there are certain benefits there, and I see those. But I think in this community, the first thing you have to do is, just like in any small business or any big business, you have to analyze and assess what we're dealing with. And if it is a situation where it's a win-win for all parties, metro government is a win for the county, metro government is a win for the city, then it makes sense. But if it's a checkers game where there's a winner and a loser, and the outcome is based on that, then I don't think that makes sense. But if all parties can move forward and it's beneficial to us, I think it would make sense.
Mr. Eldridge.
You know, metro government does have its place, and we've seen that with metro schools. So we're part of the way there with our metro school system, combined city-county school system. But really, before we consider that, the Tennessee state law is going to have to be addressed and reflect the fact that the people in the city would vote for it, but the people in the county will not support it unless they all come together by the state law. It won't happen. So we're going to have to address the Tennessee General Assembly and get that law changed if we want to move forward with metro government. But I think it has a place. It's something that we need to look at. We need to study. And I'd like to see a study done on the positive and the negatives of combining the two.
Our next question. The One Jackson Civic Master Plan is the foundation for future decision-making, serving as a guide for land use, growth, and development. How do you see this plan evolving during your administration? Dr. Woods.
I would first, Kelly, want to study the plan, but I see the plan evolving by studying that plan, looking at what it has, and then trying to tie into that particular process. Certainly, with not being part of the organization of the plan, it will be there in front of me. I will address it the way I address anything new. I look at it, I'll get input, I will study it, get more input, I would study it, get more input, and then I'll move forward.
Mr. Johnstone.
I think JEA is a prime example of how you analyze plans. JEA has a 5-year plan, and they look at that plan every year. It's a fluid plan. It's a living plan. I see that the same way with our master plan. It has to ebb and flow. It has to make sense for all neighborhoods. It can't just be north of I-40 or Bemis. It has to be a plan that lets everybody grow. And it has to, and we need to be looking at that plan every year. It needs to be a fluid plan, and that's the way I would look at it.
Mr. Eldridge.
You know, I think there's a lot of good things that can come out of that. We have not seen the study. I hadn't had the privilege to sit down and look at this, but we need to put together a plan that has a 5-year goal, 10-year goal, 15 and 20-year goals. And also, we need to bring the whole entire community together and let them have a seat at the table, have some input from our community, have town hall meetings, and be very transparent and get community involvement in before you make a final decision on this, but have a good, solid plan, and I would probably support that plan.
Mr. Conger.
The One Jackson Master Plan was about a 1.5 year long process. It had town hall meetings, had focus groups, met with multiple groups throughout the city, made public as soon as it was published. We got to use the plan. We got to look at prioritizing our needs, align them with our resources, and make sure that we can start beautifying some of the areas, redeveloping some of the areas that are laid out in our 20-year plan, and make sure that this is not a plan that we spend a bunch of money on and set on a shelf and then talk about why we didn't use the plan. We have to go out and make sure that we're using the plan that we have. We already have the community buy-in. We already have the community support. We already have everyone that's giving their ideas. We need to make sure we utilize it.
What are your plans to improve our city's aging infrastructure? Mr. Johnstone.
Infrastructure is not one of those things that you take a look at it when it gets in horrible situations. You've got to look at it before that happens. And once you let it get to a point where now we've got a mess, we're behind and we're playing catch up. So at this juncture, our infrastructure requires a lot of work. We've got 350 to 400 miles of roads. We have potholes. I had 2 blowouts trying to get down here tonight. So thank goodness you don't see the grease on my jacket. But the point is, you have to look at it just like when we bought our shopping center out here. It was a mess. But what did we do? We prioritized. We fixed the things that needed to be done first to get us to the next stage. So we have to assess, prioritize, and execute. It's that simple. It's just plain common sense business.
Mr. Eldridge.
You know, we all know that we have challenges in that area. Our roads are in desperate need of repair, repaving. It's going to take about $4 to $5 million a year over the next 5 years to bring the roads up to where they should be. And likewise, in the Improvement Act, which I was a co-sponsor of in the Tennessee General Assembly, as a result of that bill passing, the city of Jackson is going to get, in addition to what they already get, another $1.5 million to go towards roads for the Improvement Act. And also we have issues with our wastewater. We got deteriorating pipes underground, and it's going to take another $4 to $5 million a year over the next 5 years to address that issue. So it is a challenging problem, but we got to address the problem and move ahead with that.
Mr. Conger.
So it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. If we don't address these problems, someone's going to drive down the road and fall in a sinkhole. Our stormwater maintenance, there's no telling how much money we have to spend over the next several years to repair that. Those galvanized pipes were put in 50 years ago with a 35-year lifespan, so you do the math. We're living on borrowed time. An infrastructure plan goes along with a capital plan. That's out of the same bucket of money. And so we need to look at not just our roads, our stormwater, but also our police cars, our fire trucks. We have 3 fire trucks that are sitting beyond the past of their borrowed time of the 28 years. 25 years are supposed to be taken off the road. So our capital plan needs to be more comprehensive, a 10-year realistic goal-driven plan on how we're going to replace, revitalize, and reshape our infrastructure and our capital needs.
Dr. Woods.
I met with the department. I've met with the city department recently, and even as late as today. And one of the things I asked about we talked about the infrastructure piece is, for example, how do we decide what streets are paved, what streets are not paved? And he gave me an interesting answer. Of course, we look at the need. We look at where the streets are heavily traveled, and that's done in priority. I gave that example because that is the way we have to look at addressing our infrastructure problem. We have to look at it, put it in priority, step by step, and go forward and do the best for the citizens of Jackson.
All right, time for another rapid fire question. What is your hidden talent, Mr. Conger?
Oh, wow. I can get my daughter to sleep at night. If you've met her, then you know it's a hidden talent.
Dr. Woods.
It's hidden. So I can't tell you.
Gotcha. Mr. Johnstone.
I can play the trombone.
Mr. Eldridge.
Some of you may not know, but in my younger days in high school and first year of college, I played in a rock and roll soft rock group and played guitar in that band, and we had 3 records that went national.
All right.
I didn't know that, did you?
On to our next question. Our community's access to health care ranks in the top tier in the state. However, our health outcomes in many instances rank near the bottom. Under your leadership, what do you see as the city's role in making Jackson a healthier community? Mr. Conger.
I think that comes along with connectivity and walkability. Right now, you know, if you go to downtown Nashville or downtown Memphis, you'll park 5 blocks away, pay $25, and be happy to wherever you got to walk. You go to downtown Jackson, you want front door parking and make sure you don't walk any further than you have to. We need to see, everybody's laughing because you know you do it. We need to make sure that we have that connectivity, the sidewalks, the bike paths, the greenways, that we're allowing people an opportunity to get out to exercise, and then that comes along with it. People aren't just driving everywhere. They actually get out and exercise and walk, and that helps with the health outcomes.
Dr. Woods.
We want to promote healthy communities in the city. Again, getting back to the livability issues. While we have positive livability issues in some parts of Jackson, I want us to be able to get those in all the parts of Jackson. As far as the sidewalks, as far as our, for example, we may have some dog walks, we may have some dog trails. However, we want to have those there for all citizens. Also, I want to continue to work with the public schools, with the Healthy Start program, giving information to on healthy eating to all of our communities, and because I think that's so very, very important for our young people and for our citizens of Jackson.
Mr. Johnstone.
Okay, I feel like that was a softball thrown to me, because anybody that knows me knows that I run, I cycle, I CrossFit, I'm at one-on-one fitness. My whole life and my children's lives are all revolved around healthy lifestyles and longevity. And believe it or not, I'm 54 years old, and I can still squat down. When my mom and dad were 54 years old, I'm not sure they could do it, and Mom's sitting there, so don't get mad at me. But the point of that whole story is there'll be no greater champion for healthy lifestyles in the city of Jackson than Mark Johnstone, period.
Mr. Eldridge.
I think it's important that we promote healthy lifestyles in our schools, starting at a very young age. When I was in school, we had not only phys ed, but we also had a course on health and living healthy and what have you. And you don't see a lot of that in our schools today. We need to promote it with our young kids in our schools. We need to make sure that we've got a lot of activities out there. We're fortunate to have West Tennessee health care here, but we want to keep these young people from being in the hospital, keep them healthy and good diets, living a good life, and outdoor activities, some fresh air and eating well and exercising to make our community healthy.
Our next question. If the city was awarded $10 million with no requirements on how it is to be used, how would you spend that money? Dr. Woods.
Good question. I would spend that money by the process of getting the input from the citizens to see where that money could be best placed across the entire city of Jackson, because while I said we don't want to spend money that we don't have, I don't want to frivolously spend money that has just been given to me. I want us to take an opportunity to see where those funds need to be, whether that's one area over another area, whether there's infrastructure. Let's put it in priority, and we will spend those funds accordingly.
Mr. Johnstone.
Well, similar to how I would manage the city would be the same way that I would look at this. First, we'd look at a benchmark of where we are and what we're going to do and where those funds needed to be used. I can tell you I would not put them in operational funds that would be used for 1 year, and then the following year you're trying to find a way to plug that hole. They'd need to be used for things that would have an impact on the city, in a capital sort, most likely. But before you just arbitrarily said, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that, we would have to assess, prioritize, and execute. It's that simple.
Mr. Eldridge.
You know, to me, that's a real good question, and thank you for that question. First of all, you know, we're dealing with a lot of debt in our community here. We got about $80 to $90 million of debt facing Jackson, Tennessee today. I would probably take that money and pay off on the debt to help us become more fiscally stable, strong, and live within our means, and not just grow our budget, but live within the means and pay off debt.
Mr. Conger.
You know, we've talked about creating a city for younger people. We have to look at those that are in their twilight as well. Jackson is the only city that I'm aware of, and I get to travel 14 counties around West Tennessee, that doesn't have a senior citizen center. The closest one we have is in Huntersville. You got to fill your gas tank up just going one way. And so using that $10 million to create a centrally located senior citizen center so that seniors can go, they can socialize, have classes, all the things that a senior center offers, and because we know that senior centers save lives, and so that's what I would do with it.
All right, let's take another couple of questions from our rapid fire stack. Who were you named after? Dr. Woods.
I don't know another Jerry, so I'm not sure who I was named after.
Mr. Johnstone.
Biblical name out of the Gospels, Gospel of Mark.
Mr. Eldridge.
Actually, my family had a good friend of theirs. My full name is Jimmy Arundel Eldridge. So the Arundel came from a good family friend.
Mr. Conger.
Robert's a family name. We're all Roberts in my family. My middle name, my mother was a General Hospital fan, and so Scotty from General Hospital is where Scott came from.
All right, one more rapid fire question. If you could have a room full of any one thing, what would it be? Mr. Johnstone.
Popcorn.
Mr. Eldridge.
I'd like to have a big room full of young children so I can just sing to them.
Mr. Conger.
Pillows.
Dr. Woods.
A room full of more dresses to add with the ones that my wife already has.
That's a good one.
All right, now to another question. What are you doing to remain accountable to others as a leader? Mr. Eldridge.
Well, you know, I'm very open. I'm a very friendly person, and I think we should all be held accountable in the way that we live our lives, how we communicate, how we live our testimony, what we do for others, and being what I call an acronym of FAT, faithful, being available, and being teachable.
Mr. Conger.
I have one of the greatest accountability partners there is in my wife. She keeps me humble and holds me accountable. Also, my mom and my grandmother hold me accountable every day. But I make it a point to surround myself with people who are very brutally honest in how they assess how I am as a leader, how I lead, and how I live my life. And so I think it's important to surround yourself with people who are going to be honest with you, whether you like it or not.
Dr. Woods.
I remain transparent. I remain open. I return my calls, even though it's someone you go, I do that. And also, I hear and appreciate constructive criticism, even at that time, if it's not the most pleasant thing that I am feeling at that time.
Mr. Johnstone.
Well, Valerie and I teach high school Sunday school at First United Methodist Church, just right over here. And let me tell you, when you teach high school seniors and juniors, freshmen, sophomore, they look at you and they listen to you and they hold you accountable because they're watching your actions and how you live your lifestyle. And so if you're going to take that mantle up to teach those young men and women, you better be ready to be held accountable. Not because you want to, because they are going to do it.
So how do you maintain or try to maintain a healthy balance in your life? Dr. Woods.
I go by schedule. I use my calendar. However, I have a very, very, very good person that keeps me in balance. Some of the times when I say, my wife says that, I want to have a meeting about the meeting that I didn't have. So she helps me, keeps me in balance to do that because, and it's really a good thing because you serve more effectively when you take time for yourself. As a mayor, I will do that because I can't serve the city of Jackson if I'm not taking care of myself.
Mr. Johnstone.
Well, I wear multiple hats. We have several businesses in this community, and I've served in many different areas. So every morning I start my day with my morning Bible study, and then I always exercise at some point during the day, whether it's a run, or working out, lifting, or cycling. And then my work day, I schedule it from the morning. I sit down and I prioritize my things as to what needs to be done regardless before I can leave, and what things I might want to do, what things I'd like to do, and what things would be nice. And if I follow that list, and I don't answer my emails all the time, I'll answer them, but I don't answer them all day, every day. I set up times to do that because time management is the most productive thing I can do. And so putting all that together helps me live a balanced life.
Mr. Eldridge.
You know, one of the greatest assets we all have is not only our health, but our time. And I'm a very organized person. My wife didn't think so. She's more perfection than I am. But I organize my home life by planning ahead. I know what I'm going to do tomorrow. Get a good night's rest. Used to I didn't have to have a lot of sleep, but now I'm getting a little bit more sleep because it's healthy. But just living a good, healthy lifestyle, laying out your plans for today, tomorrow, and for the weeks ahead, and just being structurally organized and listening to others, being a good listener.
Mr. Conger.
So one, I'm about to be in a panic attack because you all took our cell phones from us. And that's where my life lives, is in that Outlook calendar. And then for a life balance, I have a great accountability partner in my wife who makes sure that I keep what's most important on the forefront, that is our family life, worshiping, and then our kids. And so, you know, through the campaign, through working, we make sure we block out a day at least once every 2 weeks and just focus on our family.
Our next question, what book or books have influenced your leadership abilities? Mr. Conger.
Malcolm Gladwell is one of my favorite authors. David and Goliath is one of my favorite books as well. Anything that I can get my hands on a Kindle book, going through the free library. Means of Ascent about Lyndon Johnson was also a favorite book of mine. The Servant was another favorite book. So I read books and I just take notes, and I got books with notes in them, and all through my house, and boxes on books. So any book that I can get my hands on.
Dr. Woods.
Never Eat Alone is one that I use. Networking, it's a very strong book. It encourages In Search of Excellence, and I'm trying to think of the other one that I do a lot of them, but Never Eat Alone, In Search of Excellence, and The World is Flat.
Mr. Johnstone.
My two favorite authors are John Maxwell, who's a Christian business writer, and John Eldridge. I like those books because they keep me focused, and I read enough technical things every day in my business, whether it's a lease or a contract or a zoning guideline. I mean, I can read those things. So when I'm looking at reading, I'm looking at things that are going to help me mentally, morally, and business-oriented. So that's why I tend to focus on those.
Mr. Eldridge.
I do enjoy reading, and over the last 16 years, I've done a lot of reading, reading legislation, reading laws, and as a committee chairman, full committee chairman, you spend a lot of time reading these bills and reviewing them, what have you. So I hadn't had as much time to read the enjoyable books, but I like to read books on history, historical folks, former presidents of the United States, and I love to read books by Hemingway.
How about another rapid fire question? You ready? Okay. What is your worst fear? Mr. Johnstone.
Getting a cavity filled at the dentist. That drill is awful.
Mr. Eldridge.
I want to say my wife would, if I don't bring her coffee early in the morning, I fear that because she's going to say, "Where's my coffee?" And but you know, I'm a pretty calm guy, and there's nothing but fear itself.
Mr. Conger.
Without a doubt, snakes. They don't have legs and they move.
Dr. Woods.
Crawling under a basement, I don't know. It just that claustrophobia just gets to me. So I don't like crawling under basements or under houses.
All right, back to our questions. What would be the first thing you would do if elected mayor? Mr. Eldridge.
Well, the first thing I would do, I would want to thank all the voters for allowing me to have the honor to be the next mayor. But I'd like to sit down with all the employees of the city of Jackson and build some morale issues up and get them excited, and sit down and meet with each department head to know what each department is about, what are the good, the bad, and the ugly, the pros, the cons, and get to know each area of city government from a first-hand basis, and get to know the employees and the staff, and build some excitement with our city employees.
Mr. Conger.
So I want to take this opportunity to dispel a horrible rumor that's going around. The rumor is the first thing I would do is fire everyone over 55, which is not the case. Too much wisdom in those employees and to fire them first day. And so I think what we do is assess, prioritize what the needs are. My understanding that the next mayor is going to have to develop the budget. It's going to be a continuation budget from this administration on. So that's going to be the first thing that the next mayor is going to have to do.
Dr. Woods.
I would first thank the voters and certainly thank the voters. First day at work, we'll meet with every department head, give them their copy. They should have it, but give them another copy of the mission and purpose statement of the city of Jackson and all of the values that we have, and then ask them to give that to each of their members. I think that's a reminder of why we exist. The city of Jackson is a service city, and that would be the first thing. Secondly, I would go around to as many employees as possible. Don't want to email, don't want to call, want to see them personally, because we're about service on an individual basis.
Mr. Johnstone.
Well, the next mayor of Jackson is going to be the CEO of this city. And what that requires is to look at things in a broader concept. The first thing I would want to do is a strength-based management assessment across the board. And what that does is that allows you to see where people's strengths are. Because I've worked in companies and seen companies in the past where you have people working in areas that's not their strength. They're not happy, they're not as productive. And you have other people that are so gregarious in the back room that should be out on the front lines. So a strength-based management assessment and get people working in the right areas. And then secondly, you're going to be working on that budget. So we're going to put a team of the best and brightest minds in this city, and we're going to crunch those numbers.
Our next question, there are hundreds of employees in the city of Jackson. What should they expect from you as a boss? Mr. Conger.
They expect from me as a boss that I won't be a boss, that I'll be a leader among equals. I think that you have that boss mentality, then you're not going to grow as an organization. We all have to be able, I shouldn't be able to ask my employees to do anything that I'm not willing to do. And so that's what they can expect from me as a leader, that I'm not going to be a boss.
Dr. Woods.
They can expect a leader who's fair, who's equitable, who will listen, who will hear their concerns, but more importantly, who will take the leadership role to move the city forward. I think it's very important if we, as a leader, is that I model what we want for the city of Jackson, and that's exactly what the employees will receive of their mayor.
Mr. Johnstone.
We're all on one big team, City of Jackson employees, and I would listen to anything they have to say, and I would encourage and empower them to take their jobs and run with it. I don't want to micromanage people. We need to let people work in their strengths. That goes back probably to the last question we had. When you do that strengths-based management assessment, you realize where people are their best. And so we would listen, that would be part of that. And then we would empower and encourage them to be the best they could be.
Mr. Eldridge.
You know, as I've campaigned, I've been around and visited several departments and talked to some of the employees. And one thing I've heard a lot about people say, and probably to all of us, is, I'm looking forward to you, if you become the mayor, being my boss. And my response back then, I don't want to be your boss. I'm not going to be your boss. I want to be your leader. I want to be part of a team. I want you to be part of the team with me so we can develop a good plan to move Jackson forward. And as the mayor, I can't do that alone. We've got to do it collectively together, bring a lot of people to the table, and build the morale with our city employees and show them the leadership skills and that you care about them and encourage them and walk with them and get to know them and get to know their family and build that morale. And because right now there's a lot of uncertainty with a lot of employees of who's going to be our next mayor, their leadership style, and am I going to have a job?
Our next question. Many of you, most of you, all of you, have plans if you're elected mayor. You've touched on some of them tonight. Give specifics on how you plan to pay for them. Dr. Woods.
On how I plan to pay for them is I will look at the existing budget. We may have areas that we would need to reappropriate. When I look at a position, I'm not necessarily saying that I'm going to add a position to the budget. It's creative funding, it's creative staffing, it's creative job descriptions. Also, I plan to pay for them within the existing budget that we have, which will require more input, more creative planning, and more direction on what we want to do to make that happen.
Mr. Johnstone.
Well, I think first when we look at that budget after you take office, we're going to have to make sure we're operating in the black. And we're going to have a lot of things happening. There'll be people retiring. There'll be some shifts. There'll be many things going on. And in doing that, that's going to free up some resources. But all of that would come into play in assessing where we are, getting a benchmark of what revenues we have, and then comparing those with what expenditures we have outgoing. And we're going to pay as we go, and we'll have to prioritize. And you know what? There's going to be some things that, may just not be able to make the cut because we have to have responsible government. But that doesn't mean we don't try and we don't listen, but we've got to be prepared to make the hard choices. And I'm prepared to do that.
Mr. Eldridge.
You know, the budget is a big item to deal with in our city government, and right now we're looking at roughly about a $72.5 million budget. I've worked with a $37 billion budget in the last few years of been in the General Assembly. But we're going to be working with the next mayor is going to be working with as we understand it, the current administration is not going to pass the budget. They're going to pass on a continuation resolution, I think at least for the next 90 days. So you're going to be working with their budget. And $72 million, you really got to work very carefully to keep that budget balanced and make sure that we're living within our means, not talk about raising taxes, but look at where we are, where we've been, where we want to take Jackson. And I'm willing to put together going to put together a group of leaders on a volunteer basis to sit down at the table from all walks of Jackson and look at where we are, where we need to go, and how we're going to pay for it.
All right. Mr. Conger.
So I think one of the first things that the next mayor is going to have to deal with is the retirement, natural attrition. I think therein lies the first opportunity to do some of those things that we've talked about by not replacing some of those employees, utilizing technology to maybe do some of those processes. You look at a 311 system with a mobile technology that costs about $12,000 a year to maintain. If we're paying people to answer the phone, two folks, we're looking at $90,000 a year for people to answer the phone. So if we look at people that are retiring and not replacing them, but utilizing technology, not only to provide better services, to become more efficient and more effective in how we provide those services, attract more people back to Jackson, it all works together.
Now to another rapid fire question. What is your favorite thing to do in the city of Jackson? Mr. Johnstone.
Run the Union Trails.
Mr. Eldridge.
I enjoy visiting all of our parks in our community. I think we got some great parks, and I love to get outdoors and get with the family and enjoy the parks. And my hobby is going out to my farm.
Mr. Conger.
Our favorite thing right now is to go to North Park.
Dr. Woods.
Going out to eat.
All right, our next question. What is a respectable wage for the mayor of Jackson and why? Mr. Eldridge.
You know, I'm not running for mayor for a job. I'm running for the mayor to bring my experience and leadership skills and what I've learned in Nashville back to the city of Jackson, Tennessee. And I'm not running to make this a long-term career. I'm not running for the salary. I'm running to make a difference in the great city of Jackson, Tennessee. And I think working together and with the leadership skills that I've learned through the years and my college background and the people I associate with, we can do a lot better for Jackson, Tennessee, and I'm looking forward to rolling my sleeve, getting in there, working hard, and taking Jackson to the next step.
Mr. Conger.
If you look at the city charter, that's maybe the one thing that the mayor is not responsible for is setting his salary. That responsibility lies within the council the year and a half before the next city elections. And so I think whatever the council deems necessary for the mayor to run the city is what the salary should be.
Dr. Woods.
How do you put a price on servant leadership? And when I say that, I too have been blessed that I am not running for mayor necessarily for a salary. I'm running for the mayor of Jackson to make a good city better. So a respectable salary for the mayor would be, I will certainly abide by the decision that's made by the city council because I'm running to serve, not necessarily running to be paid.
Mr. Johnstone.
Well, you know, as you know, I'm a businessman. We have multiple businesses. I'm not running for this job for the money. I have a business and income. I'm running for this job because we're at a critical time. In 1996, my wife and I moved here to Jackson because we saw it as an opportunity and a place where we could grow business, raise our family, and be successful. And that's exactly what we did. I've got 3 children, one in the Naval Academy, wants to fly fighter jets, and 2 others that are not living here. And I said, why are y'all not looking here? They said, Dad, the opportunity is not what it was when you were here in 1996. And I'm fighting for the next generation to have the same opportunity that I have. It's not about the money.
All right, our next question. Say you are elected mayor and you're with a group of fellow mayors. How do you convince that group of leaders to send their citizens to Jackson to vacation? Mr. Conger.
Well, I tell them all the great amenities that we have, that we're focusing on tourism, that we have a great ball team that you want to come visit. If you have kids that play ball, we have a great sportsplex, Rockabilly Hall of Fame, great concerts down at the AMP, working on bike lanes and working on greenways, and then you can always go eat.
Dr. Woods.
Gentlemen, let me tell you why you need to come to Jackson, Tennessee. We've just promoted a new chant. We've just promoted a new promotion. JACKSON. Come to Jackson. Come to Jackson. Come to Jackson. You'll never regret it.
Mr. Johnstone.
Well, Jackson, if you're looking, it would be a great place to come and vacation. And because there's so many things that we could do here with the baseball teams, with our AA team, and all the things locally. But what I think makes it even better, as you're here, you can branch out. There's so many things to do outside the city in our county and other counties. So we've got to market this bigger than just come to Jackson. That's a part of it, but we've got to expand it out. We've got some great partners surrounding us, and we need to work together and reach out with them. Brother Adele Kelly, the mayor of Huntington, was telling me with their shooting sports complex and the lake there, all the people are staying and eating here. So we need to partner more with our friends.
Mr. Eldridge.
I would encourage a lot of the mayors to come here to enjoy the lifestyles that we do have in Jackson, Tennessee, to visit our 4 colleges, see what good things are happening with our young people out here, to visit our ballpark, go to a ball game out there. I would love to take them, and I've taken several leaders in our state to the Old Country Store, so that's a good place to go take them out and have breakfast out there, to just be a part, and also go see the bunker. Jackson Energy Authority has one of the most state-of-the-art bunkers for disasters in our state, and I'd like to take them down to see the bunker to see what we're doing here with that.
A rapid-fire question now. What is your worst habit? Dr. Woods.
Oh, I knew I'd be first. My worst habit is repeating myself when I ask a question sometimes.
Mr. Johnstone.
Not listening to Valerie.
Mr. Eldridge.
Some people say maybe talking too much.
Mr. Conger.
Selective hearing.
As you all know, mobilizing the voter base is very important. Young voters can be key in any election and also are not always engaged. So how will you attract young voters, and why should they vote for you? Mr. Johnstone.
Well, young voters, they are the next generation. And with my children, when they turned 18, we went down to the Election Commission and registered them immediately. And what I find, which is very sad, is that many of their contemporaries that they graduated with are not registered to vote. And just like in this election, as we're talking to them saying, is Ann registered? Well, no, she never registered. Ann's 22. We've got to get younger generation, the next generation, involved in the process, because they're going to be standing up here like we are one day, and they have to understand from an early age what civics is about and what this country is about.
Mr. Eldridge.
You know, I would encourage them that voting is very, very important. Voting is a privilege, it's a right, it's one of our constitutional rights, and I would encourage that good people that your voice can be heard only at the ballot box, and for you to have that voice, you've got to get registered to vote. And I would encourage you to look at my record, what I stand for. Let me tell you a little bit more about myself, and hopefully go vote for me. But it's important in everything we do for our governor, for our president, for every elected office in our country.
Mr. Conger.
Registering to vote is not the biggest challenge that we have. In the city of Jackson, under 55 make up 56% of the voting population who are registered to vote. In the last city election, only 13% of them turned out. So what we have to do is realize that Jackson's average age is 36. We have to make sure that we're engaging younger people, meeting them where they are, not just talking to them on a stage, meeting them on social media. The social medias, we're on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, going to meet people where they are and talk about the things they care about. They're not going to get involved if they don't care. If you're not talking about the things they care about, listening to the issues that they care about, and making sure that you're engaging with them on a daily basis.
Dr. Woods.
I have the opportunity, or the great opportunity, from my education and working in education, that many of the students now that I've worked with over time are young voters. Not only are they young voters, some of their children are. That's one of the ways that I've been able to involve young people. I also agree that we do have to look at the social media look at the ways that young people communicate. And as I continue to work part of our campaign, we have a chairman that's over the millennials, and that young man works with those millennials to bring them into the process. Voting is important, and we certainly want our young people to be involved in that process.
We now turn to our final question for the evening. After 4 years in office as mayor of Jackson, what will be your legacy? Mr. Johnstone.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question?
After 4 years in office as mayor of Jackson, what will be your legacy?
The legacy of our administration will be one of a fiscally responsible government, one that runs in the black, not in the red, one that has safe streets, better schools, improved infrastructure, along with economic growth and prosperity, one that engages their citizens to come alongside us to get some emotional connectivity to this place. When you say a word, you go, I love Jackson because of that. So it's finishing out that pyramid. We can talk about the foundational bottom things, but at the top, I want people to love this city like I love this city and to be able to identify why they love this city. And it's different for everybody, but we need to help them figure that out. And I think that will make us more successful in the long term.
Mr. Eldridge.
I'd like to be, after 4 years, known as a mayor that cared about our community, ran for the right reason, and stood up for what's right. On every decision I make, it's not going to be worried about whether I get reelected or not. It's going to be how I move Jackson forward, the respect that we show our community here, what we did to improve our roads, our infrastructure, improving our education here, moving Jackson forward, jobs, our safe community, working with law enforcement, our first responders, fire department, and also growing our local economy and doing what's right, and let them be the judge of whether I did a good job.
Mr. Conger.
Efficiency, transparency, and inclusivity to make sure that we're doing the things that we do well, providing the services at the most efficient way possible, being completely transparent, knowing that everything that we've done, we've communicated on the front end about and not left you to wonder about. No backroom deals, no behind-the-scenes decisions being made, but everything out front with knowing that you know the process. And then inclusivity, bringing more people to the table to be a part of the decision-making process. For too long and far too many instances, we see the same group of people that are making the decisions, that are being a part of the process. We have 68,000 people in this city. We need to make sure that we're tapping into all the potential that we have in the citizens of Jackson and making sure that we're building a strong future together for everyone.
Dr. Woods.
A legacy that served the people, a legacy that cared about the people, a legacy that involved all the people, and a legacy that supported all the people. I'm often asked, and we've talked about it, I've often asked that if elected, I would be the first African-American mayor in the city of Jackson. Certainly that would be an honor to serve, but more importantly, not only do I want a legacy of being the first African-American mayor in Jackson, I want to be the best mayor that Jackson's ever had.
Thank you, gentlemen. As we conclude our forum tonight, each candidate will be allowed to give a 2-minute closing statement. As a reminder, the order in which candidates give their closing statements was predetermined through random drawings conducted with representatives for each candidate. Our first closing statement tonight comes from Mr. Johnstone.
Thank you for hosting this forum tonight. It's been a fantastic venue. We can create a community that lets people thrive, prosper, and grow. Now, it's not going to be easy, but if we work together and apply logical, common sense business approaches to the management of our city, we will have safe streets, better schools, improved infrastructure, along with economic prosperity and growth. We have to embrace technology, encourage co-creators to come alongside us. We have to look at healthy lifestyles and emotional connectivity. That's the difference between good and great, functional and effective, and leaving and staying for the next generation. Now, I hear words like first day mayor, 30-day plan. I've got Nashville's ear and I know where the money is. I can tell you, I've been in this community for 23 years. working, and I understand how things are done. I understand that it takes a work ethic, and you have to be able to apply those skills daily. In looking at the next mayor has got to be more interested in business than politics. And I can tell you, I've got North Jackson's ear, South Jackson's ear, East Jackson's ear, and West Jackson's ear, because I've been here working. Now, in closing, there's a lot of good folks running, but I want you to ask yourself this one question when you go into that voting booth. Who is the best person to run this city at this critical time? I believe that person is me, and I'm asking for your vote on May 7th. Thank you.
Dr. Woods.
I'm running for the mayor of the city of Jackson to make a good city better. Better support for schools and youth services, better neighborhoods, and a better economy. I bring to you the experience, the background, but more importantly, the moral compass to move our city forward. I've had the opportunity to work in numerous occupations in numerous areas of education, but perhaps the most rewarding has been in the area of special education. And I shall always remember the Special Olympics creed that says, "Let me win, but if I cannot win, let me be brave in the attempt." Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that we can win, and we can work forward to move Jackson forward together. Please elect me. Please support me as the next mayor of Jackson, Tennessee.
Mr. Conger.
This election gives you a lot of choices. It's not about us. It's not about those of us on the stage. This election is about you and about the decisions that you have to make at the ballot box this year. You have to decide what kind of Jackson you want to see, not only presently, but 20 years down the road. And I can tell you right now, we need a Jackson that's going to communicate on the front end, that's going to let you know everything that your city government is doing before it happens, not being reactive, but being proactive in everything that we do, being transparent about everything, not being in back rooms making deals without people knowing about it and then coming out and making a vote. And then making sure that we're championing innovation. We're championing the small businesses. We're championing the innovators and the creators in our communities to make sure that we're keeping them here and we're keeping our best and brightest here locally. And then we're bringing people to the table, that the same group of people that have made the decisions for the last 30 years are not making the decisions for you for the next 20 years. We all have to be involved in this decision-making process. We all have to understand that tough decisions are coming down the road, but if we communicate and if we work together, we can build a better Jackson than we have today. Look, Jackson is great. I love it. Sixth-generation Jacksonian. I'm running for mayor to make sure that the 7th generation of Conger stay in Jackson because, quite frankly, I don't want to have to travel to go visit them when they graduate college. I want them to be right here down the street from me, and when I have grandkids, they can send them right over instead of me having to drive 2 or 3 hours. So that's why I'm running for mayor, is to make sure that all of our kids have an opportunity to create, to be a part of a Jackson that they can see themselves putting roots down in. And I can tell you that every decision that will be made in a Conger administration will be one with the understanding of the impact it will have 20 to 30 years down the road.
Now let's hear from Dr. Foote.
Good evening. I want to thank the Chamber and Leadership Jackson for hosting this forum in this city that I love. A city where I was born, educated, learned to worship, married and raised a family. I have served our community children as an educator and on the school board. And I proudly served on the City Council for 2 terms and now as your Vice Mayor. I have seen Jackson evolve. I've witnessed remarkable accomplishments of our people, the colleges we have supported, the historic buildings we preserved, the beautiful parks and fine restaurants we built. And yet, Jackson today has problems: an unsatisfactory crime rate, schools that are struggling, a declining infrastructure, and a lack of unity among some citizens at a time when unity is our only hope for solving our problems. City expenditures exceed revenues. We want more amenities, but we're having trouble maintaining the ones we already have. Borrowing money has become a necessity. Challenges, sure, we have them, but none for which this great city has not prepared me to handle. 5 candidates for mayor are before you. We look different, have different personalities, leadership styles, and different motivations, I think, for seeking to be mayor. For me, being mayor is not about power, not about prestige, not about a paycheck. It's not even about politics. It's about public service. Tonight, you've heard just a little about me. For more information concerning my views on the topics covered tonight, visit me at VickyFooteForMayor.com. As the campaign continues, one of us will soon emerge in your mind and heart as the right person to lead our city. I hope to be that person. Thank you. God bless.
Mr. Eldridge.
I want to thank the audience for your sitting here through this great forum tonight. I thank Kelly for your great leadership and good questions and that you ask us all. And I am running for mayor because I care about Jackson. As I said earlier in my opening remarks, I was born in Jackson, finished college here, came back here. I've raised my family, raised them successfully, and they live here. They've got jobs here in the community. My grandchildren are here, and I love Jackson. I care about Jackson, and I want to see it continue to prosper. And Jackson is a great city, but we need to make it even greater. And through the great leadership of the next mayor, we can move Jackson forward. Also, I'm dedicated. I've got the experience and leadership, and you can look at my record in Nashville, Tennessee, my voting record, to see what I've done there. I want to bring that experience home to the city of Jackson, to the mayor's office, to work with everybody, every citizen in this community, the leadership of this community, to make Jackson a destination that everybody wants to come, and also bring our young people back here. We've got all these great colleges here, but a lot of times these young people leave here and move off. I want to have a plan that we can keep them here, love Jackson, raise their family, work here, retire here, and I will promise you this: I will be a first-day mayor. It's not going to be on-the-job training. I will bring that leadership skills from Nashville to the mayor's office and work each and every day hard to make Jackson a better place, a safer place, and support our community in so many ways. Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you, candidates, and I wasn't completely truthful. Not all of you took your 2 minutes for your final statement, so I'm going to ask you a rapid-fire question or two, if that's all right. You don't have a choice, though. In 3 words, describe yourself. Mr. Eldridge.
Passionate, very caring, and a good listener.
Mr. Conger.
Motivated, pragmatic, and determined.
Dr. Woods.
Grateful, grateful, grateful.
Mr. Johnstone.
Active, family man, and businessman.
Who is your hero? Mr. Conger.
It's a long list. I have to say, I have so many family members in my heroes. My grandfather, Bob Conger, who served this city for 22 years as mayor, national JC president, taught me everything I need, everything I know about public service and how important it is to be a servant before you're a politician.
Dr. Woods.
Mr. Leroy Woods, Route 1, Box 136, Pinson, Tennessee.
Mr. Johnstone.
Jimmy Johnstone from Dyer, Tennessee. He taught me at a young age my work ethic, how to fight for what you want, and how to get in there and do what's right for your family.
Mr. Eldridge.
I would certainly have to say my father, who was a retired Air Force colonel, who met my mother here in Jackson, Tennessee. She was from the Bemis area, and he had just got out of World War II as a pilot, and he served our military, served in 3 wars, World War II, Korean War, and the Vietnam War. And he's buried here in Jackson, and I'm very proud of him. And he taught me a lot about leadership, and do all you can do, and be honest, trustworthy, and faithful.
Gentlemen, thank you for your time. Thank you for your answers. Thank you for joining us for the 2019 Jackson Mayoral Forum. Don't forget, early voting begins on April 17th, with Election Day, of course, on May 7th. Make sure to take advantage of the opportunity to help choose Jackson's next leader, and of course, let your voice be heard. Thank you for being here tonight. Have a good evening.